Hey, good morning. Welcome. This is episode number 26. Welcome to Hospitality Live with me, Rupesh. I am super excited about this conversation we're going to have today because it's all about selling your hotel. And guys, this episode is dedicated to the GMs, the director of sales, and the sales teams that pound the pavement every single day to get business for their hotel. Either it's on the phone, they're walking into places. It's a tough job when you're in the hotel sales business. And, a lot of times general managers do it because they don't have a team behind them. Well, today I have a rock star that's going to teach you how to get more business through LinkedIn, how to get LinkedIn leads, how to sell your hotel on LinkedIn. And he's super awesome. And all he does is focus on LinkedIn and social selling, which is a huge part of your strategy that you should have in marketing, right? And he's Dennis Brown. He's been featured in Inc. magazine, Huffington Post. He's generated $20 million in LinkedIn leads and sales for people. And I'm super excited to bring him on. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on right now. Hey, Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rupesh, how are you guys?
Good. Hey, I've had my third cup of coffee, so I am super pumped up today. I'm not sure how many cups have you had today.
I don't drink coffee, but I drink Bai, and it's got like a crazy amount of caffeine in it. So it's my equivalent to morning coffee.
Awesome. Hey, welcome. I'm super excited, and I know a bunch of general managers, DOSs, which is director of sales, are a part of this conversation. And I am. Hang on, let me make sure we're live on LinkedIn because it's always confusing when I can't see right in front of me where, and you did LinkedIn Lives. You know how it goes, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, before we get started, this episode is brought to you by PerfectLabor by Hotel Effectiveness. Guys, if you aren't using this tool, and it's a smart labor management software that you include in your operations, if you're not using it, you're losing out on money. You're wasting overtime. I'm going to go ahead and read the live real quick. It is the Perfect Labor Management system by Hotel Effectiveness is the only way you get 100% perfect labor costs, right? Costs are going out the roof, Dennis. Our labor costs are our biggest expense, and we have to make sure that we can be in line with our budget, right? And sometimes labor just goes out of control and we don't control it, or we don't see it until the end of the week, right? So this way, you can manage it on a daily basis. And if you use their 5-minute daily labor check-in, you'll know exactly where your labor costs are. And guys, hit the link, right? I always get it wrong. Hit the link right here. And it's hoteleffectiveness.com/Rupesh to save 30% off your setup fees. If you aren't using them, this is an automated system, right? It's not a payroll company. It's a labor management software that you include your scheduling, and then you know exactly where you're spending your money, and your team knows, because it's not just you as a general manager or an owner where your labor costs are going, but your team knows exactly what their department is spending and if they're going into overtime and some of those things. And this avoids junk overtime. Dennis, you had a company back in the day, right? You're a part of a big company. How did you control overtime? How did you control labor costs?
Yeah, it was challenging. We didn't have a big W-2 staff. We probably only had 30 people on W-2. We did have a lot of independent contractors, but as we grew from, me being the first employee to 3 to 5 to 10 to 20, it became a real nightmare. I mean, trying to manage your fixed cost, associated with personnel. So, I mean, I definitely can see the value in having something like this, especially these days. They didn't have a lot of that technology and a lot of that back end in place when I was running that business. I started that in 2003, sold it in 16. So yeah, I think it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is. Our hotels have signed up. Dennis, 4,000, actually 4,200, maybe 4,300 hotels now currently use their system, the Hotel Effectiveness system, PerfectLabor, and it's helping their hotels. I interviewed Sloan Dean from Remington Hotels last 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and he was saying they're going to save millions of dollars this year because they have $1.1 billion in revenue for their hotels that they have, 88 hotels, and they use this PerfectLabor system by Hotel Effectiveness. Guys, please sign up for them because it is going to help you. If you're just running your payroll on Excel, you're making a mistake, because I used to do the same thing. And now we see the benefit of using a smart system, right? You use a smartphone. You don't use the old telephone. You use your iPhone, right, to make decisions and to be connected with the world. Same thing when you're using your payroll system, or you're using payroll and you're learning data. Get a system that works, that can help you and reduce frustration. That's the biggest thing. Like, you don't want to end up at the end of the week saying, oh my God, how do we have this much time on the payroll when we should have had this other cost or overtime and all that stuff. So guys, sign up for PerfectLabor, buy Hotel Effectiveness. Use my code right there, my link, hoteleffectiveness.com/Rupesh, and save some money. Guys, thank you so much, Hotel Effectiveness. All right, Dennis, we've been connected for quite some time here on LinkedIn, and I see all this fun stuff that you do. I see that you're connected to a bunch of people, and you talk about selling on LinkedIn. And by the way, I get so many, honestly, I get like 400 or 500 messages a week on people pitching me stuff, and they don't know what they're doing, right? And they're just selling to me. And I always send a message back with a nice message saying, hey, thank you so much. You could have been doing it so much better if you did this, this, and this, and you made a connection with me. You learned about my business, right? And I'm sure, and before we continue, guys, there's so many people online. I'm just going to say good morning to Kimberly, Jamie, Nimesh, Eddie, Crystal, Chris. Guys, thank you so much. We are running, Dennis and I are going to give away $50 gift card, Amazon gift card, and he's also going to be giving away his book plus a 30-minute consultation to someone that enters where you're listening from. So enter in the comments where you're listening from and just be engaging on this conversation, because without you, it's just me and Dennis talking and it doesn't make sense, right? We want your comments. We want your engagement. And I'm looking and I see a bunch of people. I see Jody, Jennifer, guys, welcome. John, thank you so much. Deborah, that's always on. Shamika, guys, welcome to the show. We're going to talk about how to sell on LinkedIn. It's social selling. Dennis, what is social selling?
You know, it depends on who you ask, Rupesh, but my definition, I try to keep things really simple. Social selling to me is leveraging social media to start conversations with your target market. Now, notice I didn't say close deals. I didn't say necessarily generate leads. I didn't say, there's a lot of things I didn't say. I didn't say pitch. I said to start a conversation with your target market. So, I mean, it's, there's some subtleties to it. And I think the definition varies from person to person. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people make mistakes, and you're talking to hotel general managers, right? You're talking to general managers, director of sales, their entire sales team, right? And sometimes, like I was saying before, we don't have a big group behind us that can just keep pushing, keep sending messages out. And who cares about if we don't get this one guy, we'll get another, somebody else. But that doesn't work on social, right? People make so many mistakes. What are the mistakes that people make on social media, especially LinkedIn, when they're trying to pitch their business, when they're trying, hey, come to my hotel because we have A, B, and C, and you'll love it. And people just make a mistake by sending out these messages, these random messages. What mistakes do you see?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to let everybody know that I'm going to point out some glaring mistakes, but I also want you to understand I made all those same mistakes, so it's okay. And if you're new, that's okay. We're not yelling at you. We're not talking down to you. We just want you to understand that there's a right way and a wrong way. And a few mistakes that I see recurring across almost any industry is the fact that, number one, they don't optimize their profile, meaning they're not making a good first impression. Right. So, I mean, we're going to talk about that a little bit today, but that's probably one of the most common because, again, you can't unring that bell. Someone lands on your profile that within a few seconds, they're going to make that first impression, and it's either going to be good or bad. And a lot of that's your choice on how you optimize it. So that's probably one of the biggest ones.
All right.
And that's very, very common, right?
So, all right, let's get in depth really quickly in the profile, because, a lot of people everybody here has a profile. If you're on LinkedIn, you have to have a profile. And Dennis, did you notice this week they changed kind of some of the things that are shifting around on the on your main page or on your profile page?
They're always shifting some of those things around, the subtle things. They used to do it in big chunks, right? There where they would just redo the entire layout of the profile, and now they're doing it in smaller pieces. But yeah, I did notice a few things.
So your media, you guys know you can post up some of your accolades, some pictures, and those stay on your LinkedIn profile, right? And I love that. So Dennis, I know you have a bunch of different media pictures and documents on your profile that show who you are, what you do, and kind of some of the accolades and some of the articles that you've been on. And I think that's a big mistake that people that they make where they don't have anything, right? Could that be one thing that could optimize their profile?
Yeah, for sure. LinkedIn gives you the ability to add multimedia, right? So that it's not just this flat document with just words, right? So you have the ability in this featured section to to add videos, to add images, to add audio. And there's all kind of links and different stuff. So, I mean, multimedia, it's that old adage, right? A picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So if you can leverage and add some of that to your profile, it's only going to be more engaging. People are only going to click one layer deeper, and every layer that they click deeper, every bit they scroll down your profile, it gives you that opportunity to continue to develop that relationship and that trust with them. So I think multimedia does play a big role.
Does your actual headline or your title make a difference? Because, and for hotels, what do they need to say?
Yes, it does. So let's start from the top down, right? So there's a few things you can do right away to optimize your profile, literally in today, right? I mean, there's a few things you can do today to optimize your profile. One of the easiest things is at the top of your profile, you're going to notice that most of you probably have a big blank space. And that's called your header image, right? It's that big rectangular image at the top. Maybe you have a generic header in there. Maybe you have no header in there. It's what your profile picture sits on, right? So that's the header image. That is one of the most valuable pieces of real estate on your entire profile. And it's obvious why, right? Because it's the first thing you see when you land on somebody's profile. So most people don't customize that. And literally, I think I've talked to a lot of people, and the reason why they don't customize it is because they say, well, I don't know how to do graphic design, or, I don't have a graphics person on staff. Well, guess what? Go to Fiverr.com, right? Or go to Upwork, or
Fiverr, Fiverr.com, right?
Yeah, 2 R's, Fiverr. Go there and you can literally get your header customized for $10. You give them a basic layout of what you got to do, draw them a basic picture of what you want it to say and do, and give it to them, and they'll create it for you for 10 or $15, literally, and it'll be done the next day.
Yeah, right? I use Fiverr for so many different things, especially media, because I'm a designer actually, but I don't have time, right? And most of us in the hotel business, we don't have time to be sitting in Photoshop and online trying to make the perfect headline or the background. Give it to somebody else, pay $5 or $10, and let it be done within 24 hours or 2 days, and they'll come back with something special that you could have created yourself, right?
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is that now. So what do you put on that header, right? So what you don't do is you don't put. It's not necessarily a placeholder for your company website. It's not necessarily a placeholder for your title. It's really more when you're customizing your profile, and this is as a whole, whether it be your headline, your header, your about section, your experience, whatever it is, you really have to be more customer centric. You have to think about, that old adage of what's in it for them, right? So you have to lead and share with them what differentiates you and what's in it for them. If you just take that very simplistic approach of what's in it for them, it's not about your story. It's not about your skills. It's not about the things you like or enjoy. It's all about them. If you take that customer centric approach to your profile, it's going to speak to your target audience, and that's going to automatically draw them in and make a better first impression. It's going to start building that know, like, and trust. And so, I can't design a header for everybody in the hotel industry, but let me share with you, tell you, and I would recommend you check out my profile if you want to look at kind of how I've optimized mine and then model it for your own industry. You can check me out at linkedin.com/IN/Ask Dennis Brown. You can check out my profile and you can steal whatever you want, right? So my profile header says, I've generated over 20 million through LinkedIn. Ask me how. And then it points to my website. It also has an image of my book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful LinkedIn Users. And it also talks about featured on some major media that I've been featured in. So I did it that way because, number one, it builds credibility. right? Because automatically I've been featured in major media. I've got a book. I've also have a very strong statement because this is what I lead with, which differentiates me in a huge way. You have a lot of people who will pontificate about LinkedIn and social selling. But the only thing they've ever successfully sold is LinkedIn and social selling. They've never sold anything, right? So that's their business. Whereas I developed my social selling and LinkedIn system while I was building my own B2B service company. So it's a differentiator, right? And it's a very strong statement with a call to action. So, and it's got some of my brand colors in there. So, I mean, that's an example of how I do it, right?
Hey, real quick, for the header, the background, what do you call it? The background header?
Header. Yeah, it's your header.
The header. For hotel salespeople, what can they put if they're focused on the wedding business, or group sales for corporate business? Like, what can they put? Like, people, sometimes we're in the business, we just don't know what we should put as a headline or what we should put as a picture. If you're in the hotel business and you're a salesperson, you're trying to sell to get more wedding business, what do you put up there?
So here's what I would tell you. I don't know the hotel or the wedding business at all, right? So, I mean, I'm not an expert in there, so I'd have to do some research. But here's what I would tell you or anybody. Think about the most relevant topic to your target market that you can tie back to your product or service. So, for example, if in the wedding industry, I'm sure there's a lot of pain points there for the customers, for the bride and groom that are planning the wedding, right? You've obviously have price, and you've got the venue, and you've got the catering, and you've got all these different moving parts. And so those, if you think about their pain points, if you think about the things that are keeping them up at night, and then you lead with one of those or multiple of those, and that will stand out when somebody sees it and they know they're planning a wedding, and all of a sudden they're saying, oh my God, we're over budget, right? And you use that as one of your standout points, one of the points that you're going to draw them in with. Well, then that's obviously going to be something that they're going to understand, and it's going to pull them in, as opposed to just putting the venue name on there, or just saying, hey, we're the cheapest, or saying that we've done, or saying we've done 1,000 weddings or whatever. I mean, you want to focus in. I like to focus in on the pain points that they have. And then I'll be extremely honest with you. I'm that marketer that loves to rub salt in that little open wound they've got. And then that creates a conversation. And then that conversation leads them to asking me questions on how I may be able to help, which in turn is where I want to be. Right. So that's right where salespeople would want to be as well. So that's one example of how you might be able to customize the header, but that same rule of, that same strategy applies to your headline, to your about section, to your descriptions, all of that. I mean, if you just use that basic thought process, and it's like I said from the very beginning, it's customer centric. It's not about you. It's not about your company, and it's not about what you like. It's all about them. And that's the switch that most people don't make, because I'll be extremely honest with you. A lot of companies, companies sometimes don't agree with me, but I'm going to tell you, they don't have enough conversations of those types of conversations. They have a lot of sales conversations with their prospects, but they don't have a lot of discovery conversations. And understanding those pain points from a customer's perspective are sometimes different than what you're saying in your marketing message, right? There's surface level pain, and then there's the real pain when you ask, but why? So that's a whole discovery process of understanding your target market and what really makes them tick, and which could be an entire episode of its own. But right now, just think about some of those pain points, tie them into your entire profile. And that is what's going to speak to your audience, because it's going to tell them that you understand what they're going through, and that you show your empathy for those pain points. And all of a sudden you make a connection.
Right. And so guys, and people are saying, I haven't updated my profile in a long time, which is guys, this is a great tip. Go ahead today, make a list. That's what I'm doing right now. So if you see me looking to the side, I'm making my own list, because I want to continue improving my profile. I want to continue improving my LinkedIn sales if I'm doing any sales, but also I want to teach this to our staff, right? I want to teach this to the rest of the team. And then you guys, you're the hotel business. You're not only just sharing it for yourself, but you're going to lead these tips to your entire team. Guys, everybody, go back and say, update your profile picture, update your header, update your background, update your bio, right? Update the contact information that people can contact you with. Like, are you using that old email in the contact? Is that true? Like, are you in your contact, are you using that old email from the last company, and it's going to the last company, right?
And that happens all the time. You're 100% right. People don't update their profile regularly. and people are sending off questions and information requests, and it's going to old information. So you're 100% right. Rupesh, I can give the audience 4 things very quickly that they can do. And if they focus in on those 4 things, their profile will change dramatically. And all 4 of these things can be done by tomorrow.
Let's do it. All
right. So header image we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So you're gonna think about that messaging, and then you're gonna go to Fiverr.com. You're gonna outsource it to somebody. You're gonna spend $15. You're gonna get back in a day or 2. That's the only thing you won't have today, but you've taken action on it today. That's number 1. The second thing is your headline, right? Your headline is probably equally, if not more important than your header image, because it follows you around wherever you go online. And the biggest mistake that most people make with their headline is they put their job title, right? I hate to break the news to you, but nobody cares that you're the general manager. Nobody cares that you're the director of sales. Nobody cares that you're the CEO.
Why? Why?
Because it doesn't go back to that basic fundamental psychology of what's in it for them. You being the director of sales doesn't mean anything to them. Yeah, sure, your wife and kids are proud of you. Sure, you've got a good job. Sure, you worked hard to get that title, but they don't care. Customers don't care. What they care about is what's in it for them. So let me read you what my headline says. Mine says, over 20 million with LinkedIn and social selling. Ask me how. Host of the Growth Experts podcast, 7-time Inc. 500, 7-time Inc. 500. So my profile header has changed over the years because my roles have changed and my focus has changed, as has yours, right? As does everybody's throughout their career. But my headline speaks to my target audience because my target market are people, whether they be directors of sales, whether they be entrepreneurs, whether they be consultants or coaches that are looking to get customers through LinkedIn, right? They want to start generating conversations and clients with LinkedIn. And so you notice how it doesn't say CEO. It doesn't say founder. I mean, those are all cool things, but your headline is not the right place for that. What your headline is
a mistake right now, because mine does say, I think, let me read what mine says and see.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell me if I'm making a mistake. All right.
Yeah, I'll leave it.
It says CEO and hotel owner, press connect to get daily tips, strategies, and inspiration. I'll teach you how to grow your career. Is that wrong?
So you did a hybrid, right? You didn't just say CEO, hotel owner, right? Which is one thing, right? You actually added some value there, right? And you had a call to action. So yours, is it the exact, I mean, I haven't really sat down and have an in-depth conversation with you about your target market and who you're really going after on LinkedIn. I think that I will tell you that I don't think anybody cares that you're a CEO, and the chances are is that and the fact is that's a very limited space. I forgot the exact number of characters that you have, but you have a lot more characters than you need just to do your job title. So I would max out those characters in a way. Literally, I have no characters available in my headline. I've used every single character available because I know it's prime real estate. Because what happens is anytime somebody sees me comment, it has my image, it has my name, and it has my headline. Anytime I post something, any information, anytime I come up and search, the image, the name, and the headline are what show up. So what happens is you get so many opportunities to deliver your message, deliver your value really passively just through the LinkedIn interface that you can't afford to just leave it as the CEO. Because if I came up in search results and it said Dennis Brown, CEO of Ask Dennis Brown Inc., that says nothing to you. But if you read it and it says over 20 million with LinkedIn and social selling, ask me how, all of a sudden you're like, holy cow, how'd this guy do this? He made over 20 million using LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn for 5 years. I've never gotten a deal. Maybe I'll just, connect with him and send him a message. Yeah. And I'll tell you, it works. I mean, so that's a simple example. So we talked about the header. We talked about the headline. Obviously your profile image should go without saying. You got to have a clean, clear image. You shouldn't be something that's cropped or blurry. It should be a head and shoulders. It shouldn't be you 50 yards away. Just a nice, clean image. And it doesn't have to be you in a suit and tie. Whatever you normally wear that you would wear to go meet with a prospect at lunch. Whatever you would wear. If it's a collared shirt, if it's a sport coat, if it's a t-shirt, I don't really care. Whatever you would normally dress in to go meet with a prospect for lunch, that's what I would use in my profile picture.
Right. And I love that you're saying that because people have profile pictures up from like 20 years ago. And I'm like, you're not the same person 20 years ago. I'm not the same person that I was last year, right? As far as I'm losing hair up here, and some of those things. So it's
Yeah, me too. And what I've noticed being on this live is that I need to go on vacation to Florida where you are, because I am pasty pale vampire white right now, and it's scary.
Yeah,
Normally
you're in New
I've got a
York,
little
right?
bit of a tan. I'm almost blue right now. I'm so white.
Well, you're caught up in that snow in New York,
Yeah.
upstate New York, and yeah, well, definitely come down to Florida and come stay with us. You'll get a nice tan.
So we talked about the header, we talked about the profile image, we talked about the headline, right? The next thing that you want to focus in on is your about section, right? If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a section that says about, and it only shows you the first 2 lines of your about section, and then you have to hit see more. But under that see more, you can create a pretty robust section of information. And what a lot of people do is they like to tell a story. They like to tell their origin story, or they like to tell some sort of story in there. And some experts disagree with me, but I don't like that. I don't like that predominantly because, first of all, stories are typically in big blocky text, right? They're paragraphs, and we all have ADD, and nobody's going to read a 4 or 5 sentence paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care if it's on LinkedIn or wherever it is. Nobody reads those big, long, blocky paragraphs. I don't, you don't, most people don't. So I subscribe to a very simple framework that I teach, which is highly customizable, where it focuses at the top. It says what I do. And then you can complete that. And then below that, it says, how can I help? And then below that, it says, who can I help?
Ah, nice.
And so it breaks it down into these very bite-sized pieces. And then when you create that about section, what you want to do is you want to deliver the information in 1 sentence paragraphs, bullet points, very simple to read format. You don't want to block everything together. I can't stress it enough. You're never going to turn on, if you want anybody to read your information and really read the messaging that you've taken time to create, don't put it in big, long paragraphs. I don't care if it's in your profile. I don't care if it's in your link, your social media posts. I don't care if it's in your marketing materials. Nobody is going to read it if you put these big blocky paragraphs. It's just the way it is these days. You will see that when you go to a website and you put things in bite-sized pieces, what will happen is 1 sentence will automatically lead them to the next sentence, which will lead them to the next sentence. If you leave a little bit of white space and you think about it from a design perspective of how people, of how the psychology of how you can get people to move down the page, as opposed to putting those big blocky paragraphs. So the about section is another one. And then the last one is your recommendations. So there's a bunch of other things you can customize on LinkedIn, but we don't have time to get into all those, but recommendations are really important. Jeffrey Gitomer said it best when he said, when you say it about yourself, it's bragging, but when other people say it about you, it's proof, right? So recommendations is like having your own box, a big box of testimonials that sits on your website. So if you have corporate clients and you're in the hotel industry, like a lot of you guys are, the hospitality industry, having those clients write a recommendation for you that lives on your profile can be extremely valuable. That social proof is one of the most underutilized tools I see on LinkedIn and social selling. Yeah. So I have over 140 recommendations from people that have either read my book, have been a past client, someone that I've done a consultation with, someone that's just engaged with my content, whatever the case may be. But people have went in and voluntarily just written a review, a recommendation. And so what happens is, Rupesh, if you and I are competing for the business and everything is equal, your pricing and my pricing are similar, it's apples for apples. But if they looked on our profile and I have 140 recommendations from past clients and you have none, tell me the impact you think that would have on most buyers' decisions.
Yeah,
right?
It's like buying on Amazon. Like you look at reviews and you look at TripAdvisor. This is TripAdvisor. A recommendation basically is TripAdvisor for yourself.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's like Yelp, and it's like the Amazon reviews. When you go to Amazon, everybody reads the reviews before they buy because they don't want to get stung. And the same thing happens on LinkedIn. That's the reason why I've stressed it and made a part of my process, and one of the reasons why you should. So those are a few ways you can optimize your profile. And again,
people are loving this.
I don't want to spend the entire time on just optimizing the profile because there's a lot of other things. And I said to you before, you're like, well, we've got about 45 minutes or so. And I said, well, listen, I could spend 45 minutes on any one of these individual topics, let alone, the 3 or 4 things we were talking about trying to touch on today. So you let me know where you want to lead the conversation from here.
All right, guys, there's so many questions and so many comments here on the profile side of social selling, and it's your profile, right? You have to optimize it. Guys, I would recommend hitting up Dennis after this and see how he can help you update your profile and kind of optimize it for what you're doing in your space. If you're the hotel manager or anything in hospitality, he will definitely help you. Let's move on to, because I know we could definitely talk about this for like 2-3. Dennis, we could have a whole session. We could have a live event with just this one topic. And I was actually thinking about this. I was like, you know what? The next time I have a live event, I'm going to help people by giving them free headshots. Like, just, I'm going to have a photographer there. Might as well give them free headshots, because I see people with old pictures, their Facebook pictures up on LinkedIn, and that's just a mistake. And so I love
no picture, or a lot of times they'll put their logo up there if they don't have a good picture of their company. And I'm like, listen, nobody does business with logos, right? They don't do business with logos.
Do you delete people that connect with you that have a logo?
If people have a logo or they don't have an image, the probability of me connecting with them probably goes down tenfold, because because if they're not willing to do that very limited level of customization, it tells me they just don't spend a lot of time on here, and they're just really not my target audience. So, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time with them, but if you've just taken the basics, it's, again, that's that first impression. You didn't have time to put a photo in. Come on. You're not serious about LinkedIn, so I can't, it's hard for me to get serious about you, right?
Yeah, guys, there's so many great comments here. We're giving away a $50 gift card, Amazon gift card, and we're giving a 30-minute free consultation with Dennis. So guys, hit the comments.
Just so you guys know, sorry to interrupt, but just so you guys know, my hourly rate for consultation, and this is 100% legit, you can go to my website, you can ask anybody, is $1,000 an hour. So that's a $500 value for a 30-minute giveaway. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be egotistical, but I just want you to understand, when he asked me, I said, listen, I'll give away a 30-minute conversation and I'll answer any questions anybody has. We can set it up at your convenience in the next couple of weeks. You just have to be selected by Rupesh here as one of the top engagers. I guess that's the qualifier.
So I'm listening to you. I'm writing down comments, and I'm also reading the comments that everyone's posting. Guys, thank you so much. And Dell says I'm a little bit too loud, so I just turned my gain down on the audio. Guys, thanks for that comment, because I really need that. I don't want to sound like
you're screaming.
I don't want to be screaming at you guys, and I'm excited. So, all right. So we've updated our profile. Now we're ready to sell on LinkedIn. We're ready to sell and try to get business into our hotels. How do you do that?
Okay, so there are a few ways that people generate leads and sales and clients with LinkedIn. And I'm going to give you a high level and then we'll break into them. One is LinkedIn advertising, right? I'm not a LinkedIn advertising expert, but LinkedIn's advertising platform has come a long ways. And depending upon the lifetime value of your client or the average ticket price of a sale, it may or may not be a good thing for you to do some due diligence. If you're interested in that, I have a friend, his name is AJ Wilcox. Check him out. He's like the expert about LinkedIn advertising. He's managed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of advertising on LinkedIn. He's brilliant. Okay. So that's something that I can't do. What's that?
How do you spell his last name?
Wilcox, AJ Wilcox. Yep. He's brilliant when it comes to LinkedIn ads. So you could check him out. Now, the next two are, the two ways are, one is you can do outreach, right? Which is where you find, connect, and engage with your target market with the objective of converting that from an online conversation to an offline conversation. So that's more of an outreach strategy. And then the third one is where you're using content to generate inbound leads, right? So LinkedIn has become much more of a content distribution platform now where you can actually generate inbound leads. And I'll blow your mind really quick, Rupesh, but in 2018, I became the crash test dummy for generating inbound leads with LinkedIn. So I spent well over 100 hours testing how to leverage content to generate inbound leads. And at the end of the year, I had generated over 3,500 inbound leads, all organic, all free, all from my content, and they were all inbound. So I invested well over 100 hours of my own time to put that together. I actually created a guide, the free guide that people could use to actually learn that basic framework of how I did that. But those are the three different ways. You do paid advertising, You go to AJ Wilcox, you do outreach or you do content, right? Those are the three primary ways. And there's all like little nuances in there, of course. Which one do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the outreach? You want to talk about the content, how I generate inbound? What do you want to do?
So I love content, but
right.
I also love that we can teach people how to properly outreach, because I'm telling you, just like you probably get, guys, in the comments, let me know if you get these messages from salespeople that just are selling you something instead of getting to know you, like that know, like, and trust they don't believe in, right? So let's talk about the outreach, because I think that's most important. That's most valuable for us in the hotel business. Like, what's the proper way of reaching out to somebody when you've kind of followed them on social, when you follow them here on LinkedIn and you like what they're doing and you can help them?
Yeah. Got it. So when we started this off, you led off with what are some of the biggest mistakes? And I said, optimizing your profile. The one I was going to say next was everybody, when they get on LinkedIn, the first thing they do is connect with people. And what they do is they lead with their pitch, right? They get in this big hurry to get all of that. It's kind of like when a lot of salespeople will sit down with a prospect. All of a sudden they throw up all over them. They start talking and over talking and trying to sell benefits. And they just, they're like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to oversell. And then all of a sudden, the prospect, doesn't respond to that because they realize that they don't really know anything about them. And they're just pitching, right? So with LinkedIn, leading with your pitch is one of the biggest mistakes. And what I mean by that is you've all gotten a message where you accepted a connection request from somebody. They sent a connection request saying maybe they didn't customize it at all, or maybe they said something like, hey, I see we're in some similar groups. We got some similar, I saw you engage with this post. Curious if you want to connect. That would be a good way to connect, right? Really soft. You're not pitchy. And then the next thing you know, they say, oh, hey, listen, I do SEO and I do website development and I do content creation and I'm a coach, or I do this, and they're pitching and beating you over the head. You get those every day, right, Rupesh?
Every single day, every day.
Yeah, so do I. And so do the people in the audience probably, right?
Especially if they're saying, Sally saying true, Stefana saying every single day, Kaylee saying yes, Tracy, she's taking notes, guys.
Yeah.
This is great. These are great tips.
So here's the tip. If you want to find, connect, and engage with your target market, we'll start at the beginning. Finding your target market is really, really simple on LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, for me, it's the simplest social platform that you can use. It's very hard to find your target market unless you're doing paid ads on Facebook. It's very hard to find your target market on Instagram. It's very hard to find your target market on these different platforms, right? But with LinkedIn, they have a very granular search that allows you to search by all kinds of different criteria. You can search by industry, geography, title, all kinds of different variables you can use to find your target market, right? And you can get really granular. Even with a free search, if you don't have a premium account, there's a lot of great search tools built right in. So that's one of the ways you're going to find your target market. Utilize those search tools, learn how to do Boolean search, which is the ability to add parameters like exact match quotes or parenthetical searches or knots where you're actually excluding certain terms. Boolean search will be a really powerful part of that. So you go into LinkedIn, you find your target market. Now, let's say, for example, you've put together a list of 100 potential prospects. We're just hypothetically here, right? We've identified a list of 100 potential prospects. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go onto their profile and you're going to take 2 minutes and you're going to gather some sales intelligence. And what I mean by that is you're going to look at and understand their geography. You're going to understand where they went to school. You're going to understand how long they've been in their current job, different roles, influencers they follow, content that they've published, content they've engaged with. You can literally scroll through somebody's profile and in 2 minutes, jot down a couple of notes and a couple of things that you either have in common with or you can speak to, and then you're going to customize a connection request. You're not going to send a generic connection request, right? You're going to add a note where it says connect, and then it'll say add a note, and you're going to add a really kind, simple, short note. It might be something like, if I was trying to connect with Rupesh, I'd look at his profile and I'd say, hey, Rupesh, I know you're from, are you in Daytona? Where's your geography? You have hotels in Daytona. So he lives in Orlando. I say, okay, listen, hey, Rupesh, I was in Orlando just a couple of months ago. I see that, we're both here on LinkedIn quite often. You own some hotels. Love to connect. or, curious if you're open to connecting. So it's super simple, but it's not pitchy, right? And it says that I was in Orlando. Now I know he owns a hotel. So if I go to Orlando or I go to Florida, he might want me to consider using his hotel. So he's probably going to accept my connection request if he looks at my profile and he sees and it makes a good first impression, which is what we talked about at the beginning. So then let's say Rupesh accepts my connection request. Here's one of the biggest mistakes people make. From that point on, two things. They either beat people over the head with their pitch and they start trying to sell immediately. Now, if I shifted gears and all of a sudden I said, hey, Rupesh, I'd love to set up a call because I sell XYZ. All of a sudden you're going to give me the Heisman and you're going to say, no, or you're just not going to respond.
I don't respond, or I say, listen, you wanted to connect with me. Sometimes people say, hey,
you're way too nice. Sometimes I'm not nearly as nice as you.
Well, I want to be nice to people because this is a small world, especially in the hospitality business.
Yeah,
you don't want to be a jerk to anybody, right? And we have the mindset of being hospitable. So I kind of do the same thing on LinkedIn to most people that send me a message, but they'll send me a message, hey, I love your show. I love what you're doing. And then all of a sudden the next one is like, hey, can we get on a call?
Right.
Well, I don't know you and I don't know what you stand for. I don't know. You didn't get to know me, what I do. Yeah, I host a show here every week, but I also have all these other businesses that you could have talked about that we could have made a connection on, right? And that's where a lot of people make
if you would have spent a few minutes gathering some sales intelligence from your profile, from your website, from your other social platforms, gather some of that data and then leverage that data. That's what sales intelligence is, right? It's data that enhances your opportunity to get a sale. Right. As from a salesperson's perspective. All right. So the one mistake is they beat people over the head with their pitch. The other mistake is they do nothing and they don't send a follow-up message. And they say, well, Rupesh and I are connected now. He'll somehow, the gods will shine down on me. And all of a sudden he's going to call me or send me a message and say he wants to do business with me. Right. So they think hope is a winning strategy. And I promise you on LinkedIn, it's not a winning strategy. So what you have to do, the simplest way for you to respond to him connecting with you is to send a simple thank you message. Now, this might seem very rudimentary and very simple, but believe it or not, this simple thank you message will start more dialogues than any other messaging you can create because it's a genuine thank you and you want to lead with some value. What I will sometimes do is I'll say, hey, thank you. Really appreciate you connecting or accepting my connection request. I took a look at your profile. Here's a piece of content. Here's an article. Here's this, here's that I thought might be interesting to you. Love to hear your feedback, whatever. Right. So at that point, it's just a give, right? You're just thanking them and you're giving some value away. It's that everybody's probably read the book, the Gary Vaynerchuk book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. Right. Yeah. So he published that in 2013. Well, the spoiler is he sold millions of those books and it's been amazing for him. And he's helped a lot of people with that message. But that's been the foundation of my strategy since 2008 when I got my first client with LinkedIn, and I called it my give, ask, right? So eventually you give away value, you nurture that relationship, you focus on engagement, not selling. And then after they've realized that you're not the typical salesperson beating them over the head with pitch, you understand their challenges you understand them and their challenges based on the give that you're giving them, whether that be an article, whether that be a case study, whether that be a video, whether that just be whatever it is, something that's engaging, that's relevant to them. And then all of a sudden you do an ask at the end, give, ask. You're going to 10x your opportunity of converting that conversation offline because you took your time. Most people treat LinkedIn and social media like it's Tinder, right? Like they're just trying to get a date tonight, right? They're focused on trying to get a date tonight. And if tonight doesn't work, it doesn't work for me. When in reality, all you have to do on social is slow things down a little bit. You got to be more patient. You got to slow things down. You got to be willing to invest some time and energy. And that thank you message is one of the greatest ways to start that conversation. And then from there, you're not going to send them a message every single day. You send them that thank you message. Some are going to respond with a mutual thank you. Hey, great to connect. Thanks for connecting, whatever the case may be. And then maybe if they don't respond within a week, maybe you'll send them another message, but it's a give message. Now what you're doing is you're nurturing those prospects, right? Remember, we started with a list of 100.
Mhm.
that you found using search, and then you connected with them. If you use that connection strategy I shared with you, you'll get at least 50%, maybe 60 or 70% will accept your connection request. So now let's say we've got 50 people that have accepted our connection request. We then sent a follow-up message with a thank you, a simple thank you, not pitching, but more focused on giving and showing that you understand the prospect. And then you do follow-up sequences out of those 100 people that you targeted. If you made a cold call to those 100 people, how many people do you actually think you'd get an appointment with?
One.
Maybe one or two, maybe is kind of statistically what you'll get as an appointment. Now, if you keep calling and keep calling and keep calling over the course of a year, you'll probably get more. But the first time through, right, you might get one or two appointments. If you take this process, it's not unrealistic for you to get 10 or more if you take this nurturing process. So now you've 10x'd your results. Remember, the value of one of these clients, if the value of one of these clients was $100, you wouldn't invest the time. But in the hospitality industry, when you're selling, to commercial accounts for your hotel and weddings and these venues and the catering and all the things that go with hospitality, it's not uncommon to be 10,000 account to be probably worth, 10,000 or more, right? I don't know. I don't have enough of the background.
Yeah, it really depends on who the group is. And if you're trying to get, this conversation about business to business on LinkedIn. So there are people that are tour group operators. There are people that are in the industry that do certain things for the hotel industry, and that you can land a big deal if you just made the right connection and you did it properly, right?
Right.
And this goes out to everybody, not just hotel people. There's vendors that are listening in, and guys, if you're rewatching this, this is out for everybody, just not hotel people, but hotel vendors. Like, I have people send me, like, insurance companies. Oh my God, people send me stuff, marketing, sales pitches every single day. Like, hey, you should switch over your insurance company right now. And they think it's Tinder. They think it's Tinder where, like, hey, I need a date. I need a date right now. And they think like tomorrow the world's going to end or something, right? And it's not that way. And for me, especially insurance, it's like a long-term play. It's a relationship-based business. And same thing for your hotel. It's a relationship business where if you're friends with somebody, you're probably going to give them business over somebody you just met. Even though they might have a better service, they might have better value, they might have better whatever, you're friends with this person, right? You've been friends with them for a long time. And that means a lot when you're trying to build a relationship, especially on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And if you're selling on LinkedIn, you have to turn your hat around, right? And you have to have a little bit of a paradigm shift. It's not about, you have to focus on relationships over transactions. Salespeople, unfortunately, have a tendency to be very transaction oriented, and that's because of how they're compensated and the KPIs that they're measured by. But if you focus on relationships over transactions using social, what you'll find is you'll develop a lot more relationships. And if you're focused on the right people, those relationships will either lead to other relationships and referrals or client engagements in some way, shape, or form. But it's not Tinder. I tell everybody this. For the audience, anybody that has ever heard of the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, it was a cult sales movie back in the 80s and 90s. Alec Baldwin was in it. Jack Lemmon was in it. Al Pacino was in it. A lot of top names were in that movie. And it was the sales movie where you've probably all heard this. ABC. Always be closing, right? Did you ever hear that phrase before?
Yeah, I've heard.
Always. That came from this movie, Glengarry Glen Ross, and it was literally a cult sales movie, right? So I don't know how many people have heard of it. I'm probably aging myself. I'm 50. So guys, when I started sales, it was that was the big movie. It was crazy. So go ahead and comment in the comments below and let me know who and Rupesh will tell us who knows that movie.
Yeah, have you seen that movie, Glenn, Gary, and Glen Ross?
Glengarry Glen Ross. It's Al Pacino, Alec Baldwin. And what I tell everybody is you never want to be Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin is that jerk that stood up in front of the chalkboard that said ABC, always be closing. Well, in the 80s, that was fine, right? Pre-internet, that was fine. But now we're in the new millennium. We're 2020, right? So, I mean, this is a totally different age. Buyers are smarter and more educated than ever. So you can't sell that way. And so what I tell everybody, would you rather buy from that Alec Baldwin character that I just explained to you, or would you rather buy from Oprah Winfrey? Everybody loves Oprah. Why do they love Oprah? Because she just gives. She gives value. I mean, if you come to her audience, she gives away trips. She gives away cars.
You get a car, you get
Right?
a car.
Everybody loves Oprah. If Oprah wanted to sell something, that's the reason why Oprah's book club is so popular. That's the reason why every product she endorses goes crazy, because people love Oprah and because she's not that hard closing, beat you over the head with your pitch. Right. So be Oprah, don't be Alec, right? And so I would highly recommend you guys can go to YouTube and catch some, some clips there if you don't want to watch the whole movie. Glenn Ross, you'll laugh, and then I think that analogy will really come full circle for you. So we talked about that basic outreach strategy, which is find, connect, and then engage, and then you convert those conversations offline, and you're going to get a much better ROI than you will if you're just trying to cold call people, right? And again, I know cold calling is part of the deal, and I'm not saying cold calling doesn't work, and I'm not telling you not to cold call. What I'm trying to tell you is to leverage LinkedIn to supplement what you're doing to be more strategic, particularly with those prospects, those high value prospects, because those guys are just typically not, guys and gals are just not going to respond very well to cold calling.
Right.
Not today.
These have been great tips. I mean, if you use these strategies and prevent yourself from making the mistake, guys, today, I know you've made a list. Today, after you get off of this conversation that's live, go on and update your profile. And if you need help, Dennis is here to help you and help you. And I love this conversation. Guys, if you guys have enjoyed this conversation, and we could probably talk about like 10 more hours of this stuff, because there's a lot more to talk about when you're talking about making.
We didn't even talk about content. We didn't even talk about inbound. We didn't talk about any of that. I mean, there's a lot to cover. And I mean, before we close out, I can give a couple resources for people so they can take this conversation and continue it on their own. And if they have questions, they can feel free to just message me.
Yeah, definitely. How can people reach out to you? I know we have a banner that I'm going to put up real quick, and
connect with me on LinkedIn or anywhere on social. My handle is always Ask Dennis Brown. So my website is askdennisbrown.com. That's where you can get my book for free. It's a digital download called The 7 Habits of Highly Successful LinkedIn Users. Yeah. I would also recommend, we didn't get to cover the content piece, but I did kind of tease you a little bit with the fact that I was able to generate 3,500 inbound leads in 2018 with my content. Well, all organic, all free.
Right. Hold on. We can still talk about content, because I think people still want this. We have a bunch of people online, and give us 2 content tips that you think could change the hotel business as far as people trying to reach out and make some sales on LinkedIn.
Sure. So when I focus on content on LinkedIn, one of the biggest mistakes people make when they focus on creating content for social is they think it always has to do with their product or service. They think that every piece of content they put out has to somehow relate back to their product and service. And that, in my opinion, is totally wrong. What it has to do is it has to be relevant in some way, shape, or form to your target market. So if your target market is what's a target market of somebody who's trying to sell commercial hotel, you're selling your services to someone in the commercial space. Give me
you're the DOS or the general manager, you're trying to get group business. You might be reaching out to a company that's in your area, that comes often, that might be doing construction in your area.
Who's the title of that person in that company that you're typically reaching out to make the decision? Is it the owner? Is it HR? Who is it?
Might be somebody in operations that kind of handle
like maybe a GM or a COO or someone like that, or a director of operations.
Yeah.
Okay. So whoever that is, what you want to do when you create content is you want to think about, again, going back to this customer-centric approach, you want to think about, what are the things that keep them up at night? What are the pain points that they deal with in their job every single day? And the fact is that if you looked at all the director of operations or all the CEOs or all the GMs of a specific industry, and you had them list out the pain points, there's probably about 5 or 10 recurring pain points that they all have across different industries. If you're talking to a CFO of a financial service company, the same CFO of a SaaS company has a lot of the same issues. Now, they're painted with a slightly different brush, they're a slightly different size, they're a slightly different hue, but the fact is they have the same pain points. So if you understand those pain points and the things that keep them up at night and the things that are relevant to them, all of a sudden now you start speaking their language, right?
Right.
And if you can speak their language, you can start developing that know, like, and trust. If you don't speak their language, you have zero chance of getting any know, like, or trust. So what I do is I create content that fits into 3 buckets. It's either educational, entertaining, or inspirational. Those are 3 buckets that I use.
Yeah.
A lot of it's educational, but they all fall into those 3 buckets. And it's always in and around topics that are important to my target market. So you think about what type of content does your target market read? What resonates with them? What are websites and blogs they're going to? What magazines do they read? What are the things that are important to them? And then you start creating content around that. And if you sprinkle in your content that ties back to your product or service as a part of your weekly regiment, that's the way that you can softly introduce this. But if every piece of your content is just talking about your product or service, it's not going to take very long for them to tune it out, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to take very long for them to tune it out. They're going to either buy or they're not going to buy, and you're never going to get a chance to get them back, because all you're doing is it's just a disguised version of leading with your pitch, right? That's all it really is. It's a slightly different disguised version of that. So diversify your content into different topics that are relevant to whoever you're trying to entertain. Diversify it into different formats like images and quotes, videos, text-based posts. I started doing something recently that you guys might really like that works really, really well. And you might have seen it even, Rupesh.
Can I show it? Can I actually show it to the audience?
The slide decks?
Yeah, these carousels. People love them. Hang on, let me pull it up real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
It's I've heard other people talk about it, and I think I've used a few, but man, you do it really well. I think you do it the best out of anybody, because you just really you're out there just posting every day these carousels that get a lot of engagement. And let me see if I can try to find one real quick. And
so as he's trying to pull those up, what a carousel is it's a sequence of images that you scroll through. You probably are familiar with it. You see them on Instagram, you see them on Facebook, these carousels. And what I do is I take a topic, right? And then I unpack it on each part of the slide. So they're typically anywhere between 5 and 10 slides. And it's a great visual way to deliver bite-sized pieces of information that provide value that then get those users to engage further. So they either engage in the comments, they either send me a connection request, they send me a message, they ask me a question, whatever the case may be. Oh, so here's an example of one. So he'll scroll through it. So here's the topic: 7 tips for growing a 7-figure business. And then if you click scroll, boom, it brings you to tip number 1, develop a growth mindset, find product market fit, leverage a recurring revenue business model or develop upsells and downsells, build a great team by hiring people that are smarter, think and act like a media company, right? So I'm delivering. And then at the end, there's always going to be a call to action, right? So my podcast is called the Growth Experts Podcast, which obviously I would highly recommend you guys check out, because it's a passion project for me. It's not something I generate revenue from. It's just something I've done for the last couple of years, much like Rupesh does with this live show. It's more of a passion project. And I did an episode, and this is how I promoted the episode. So I gave people bite-sized pieces of information, enough to get them interested. And then if they wanted to understand exactly how I built my first 7-figure business and then subsequent businesses, they could go in and check out the podcast. And so that's just a really basic framework of how you might be able to leverage this. And again, it doesn't always have to lead back to your product or service. I don't sell this podcast, right? This isn't a pay to play. This is just a continuation of providing more value. It's that give, ask theory in a little bit different format. So
And Dell says, what is it called? It's called a carousel, and it's basically a PDF. Like, let's say it's a 5-page PDF. You can have it carousel through. And same thing, you can go to Fiverr.com and get somebody to build this for you. It's just a PDF that you're putting in and uploading, right?
What they'll do is they'll create a series of JPEGs, which is typically, just an image format, and they all tie together. You saw how the flow and the coloring and the images all tied together. So they'll create 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or how many slides you have. And then if you're going to be using them on Instagram or on Facebook, you'll upload those individual images. But if you're going to do it on LinkedIn, what you'll do is you'll put those images into a JPEG PDF converter, and it'll create a PDF document. And then with LinkedIn, you'll just simply go up to the top where where you're going to post content on your homepage, on your feed. And then at that point, you'll click the button on the far right that is like a documents button, where if you click on share a document, choose a file, you'll upload the PDF, and it'll walk you through. It'll allow users to walk through that content, just like Rupesh showed you in that example.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, and you know, LinkedIn, their algorithm is uh, helping people that post these get up in get views too. So like your this one has like 275 views, and I see all yours get a lot of
Well,
views.
yeah. So,
Likes.
yeah. So for example, yeah, that's a little bit of an inside tip here that you guys have. The reason why this format does so well is because every time you click on one of these slides to move to the next slide, it counts as an engagement. So LinkedIn is looking at that as a vote to say, hey, I like this content. And every time they scroll through, and if you've got 5 or 10 slides, that's 5 or 10 votes, and that bumps you up into the algorithm to give you more reach, right? So that's a little bit of an insight. But for example, that one that I posted yesterday got almost 10,000 views. The one that you were looking at, the 7-figure one, got 15,000 views. And hundreds and hundreds of engagements. Some of them have gotten as much as like the one before that, where how I generate over 20,000 leads by asking simple questions, got 36,000 views. And you know, some of these have generated, each one of these posts generates inbound leads. So I always have people that come to me and say, hey, listen, I saw your headline. I looked at your profile. I'm curious if you might be able to help me with my LinkedIn or with my social selling, or you might be able to train my team, or can I set up a call to do a consultation with you? So
Yeah.
almost every single one of these posts leads to an inbound lead for me, if not multiple.
I
Right.
love, so I love content. I'm going to give you the bell every time somebody posts or says something awesome about, you know, something in this conversation. I love it. Content is still king. People, if you are not using the right content in your posts, you're not building an audience. You're not going to be able to sell anything to anybody, because you're just maybe basically posting about yourself and maybe your hotel. But really, if you understand, like Dennis says, your audience, you know what they want and what they're looking for and their pain points, you'll know exactly how to connect with them. And, you know, a lot of times it's a story. Is that what you kind of base your content on a story?
Well, it falls into 3 buckets. Again, it's educational, inspirational, or entertaining, right? So I take those 3 buckets. If it's educational, then it's usually that storyboard format or a video saying how to. If it's inspirational, then a lot of times it's a story, right? Because stories are what get people emotional, right? And that stories is valuable. That's what get people to engage and share and comment and like,
right.
right? And then inspiration can sometimes be so you got entertaining, inspiration, and educational. So sometimes it's stories, and you can tell those in video, which is very powerful. But sometimes it's just text-based posts, right? Where you can tell a story. I have a good friend. His name is Dale Dupree. He's a sales trainer and coach. His brand is called the Sales Rebellion, and he's amazing at telling stories, and he tells them all in little micro blogs. It's text-based posts that are really short and very consumable, but he tells great stories in that format, and he gets crazy engagement, right? So, I mean, stories is a really valuable way to do that. You know, there's that old saying, facts tell, but stories sell, right? So anytime you can relate something back to a story, it can be really, really powerful. So if you're good at that, I'm probably not as good at that as most people, but there's a lot of people, especially Dale. But I would suggest you check out Dale Dupree. It's Dale, Dupree. Check out his profile, check out his content. He tells great stories, and I think you'll immediately resonate with it. And they're all sales related, so you might be able to benefit from that as well, because I know we're having a sales conversation here. So
yeah, definitely. These have been great tips. You know, we started with the mistakes. Then we went to the profile. Then we went to lead generation and how you're actually sending out a message, right? And then the content. And now once you have the content in, and you're all right, I'm going to post this. Should you have a CTA, which is a call to action at the end, or should it just be content that you throw out there and wait for people?
So I try to put one of the secrets to leveraging content. You said content is king, right? And that's been, Bill Gates, originated that a long time ago, right? Back in the 90s, right? He originated and said that. And content is king, but if there's a queen, or if there's someone that's close to the top, it's definitely engagement, right? So if you don't get engagement, you can put all the content in the world out there, but if you don't get engagement, you're not going to have anything to build upon, right? So I use call to actions, and those call to actions aren't by call to actions. They're little micro call to actions. So it's maybe, I'm always looking for feedback. So I might, at the bottom of my post, I might ask a simple question and then say, hey, have you ever gotten, with that perfect example, if it was a post about people leading with their pitch and treating LinkedIn like Tinder, I might say at the bottom, hey, have you ever gotten an unsolicited pitch where people were just beating you over the head with their sales pitch? Reply in the comments, and everybody's going to reply to that, right? Just like they did here, because everybody got that. So then all of a sudden now it's doing two things. Number one, it's identifying people that meet that specific segmentation. They have that experience, which is educating me and helping me to formulate some additional engagement to each one of them. And it's also feeding the LinkedIn algorithm, which says to LinkedIn, hey, everybody likes this content. They're engaging with it. We're going to push it out further. We're going to push it out further. And then the next thing you know, all of a sudden your post is getting thousands, if not tens of thousands of views. And you're starting to get inbound leads. And that's how that works, right? So you're casting a wide net with your content. And if out of those posts that got 10,000 views, I might have gotten 3 or 4 or 5 inbound lead requests from that, but that's fine. It was free. It cost me nothing. I created the content. So there's a little bit of time invested there, but it positioned me as a resource and a valuable resource delivering the content. It engaged my following and it generated inbound leads. How much more can you ask for?
Yeah. I mean, I love all this entire conversation. Guys, have you loved what Dennis has shared with us? Because I've wrote down, look, I have 2 pages of just stuff I'm writing down, and it's been awesome that you can teach us these small tips. I thought I was a professional. I thought I was the expert on LinkedIn, but I wrote down 2 pages worth of tips that I'm going to go back and improve my profile. And when I'm reaching out to, because I reach out to people too, because I either want them on the show or I'm happy to connect with them because they're doing something amazing in the industry. And I want to learn from them because I'm continuing to learn every single day. And so these tips can help you improve your hotel revenue. It can help you improve yourself as a business person. And then also it can help improve the community around you too, because it's not just about yourself, but it's about your entire network, right? And Dennis, thank you so much for joining us. Let me put the website back up. It's askdennisbrown.com. Where else can people connect with you?
That's where you can go to get the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful LinkedIn Users. If you want to get this, the ultimate guide to generating inbound leads with LinkedIn, that's that crash course, 100 hours I put into putting that. It's a 22-page guide. Just go to askdennisbrown.com/guide, GUIDE, and you can download the guide there. I would recommend or suggest or welcome anybody that wants to connect with me on LinkedIn or anywhere on social. My handle is always Ask Dennis Brown.
Awesome. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. And guys, as we promised in the beginning, we're going to give away a $50 Amazon gift card and a 30-minute free consultation with Dennis here. And I'm just going to go through it. And I know
go ahead and pick them. It'd be great.
I've been reading on the side while we're talking. I'm listening, reading, and writing down, but I've been noticing a bunch of people comment, and Dell's in here, and he is actually a leader at Hotel Effectiveness, our sponsor here. Thanks so much, Dell, for being. I wish you could win because you're always so engaging and you're so active on this conversation. But there have been quite a few people. I wish I could pick all of you guys. Guys, you can all get the free book, Dennis's free book, at askdennisbrown.com, and click on that link right at the right on the right side. And I got it this morning. I was happy to read. It's like 39 pages, right?
Yeah, the 7 habits. I'm not sure how many pages that is. Oops.
I think it's like 39, 40 pages. I think it's awesome. It just has a bunch of stuff that can help you on your LinkedIn profile, all the stuff we talked about, plus more. So definitely get that. And guys, all right, and Dennis, I said I was going to be like 45 minutes, maybe 35, 40.
That's all right.
45 minutes. It's been 1 hour and 7 minutes, and it's been a great conversation. Let me go ahead and pick a winner. And all right, so the person that's been really engaging, I wish I could pick all of you. It is Sally Zalk, Zalk. Sally, congratulations. You won a $50 gift card courtesy of myself and Dennis Brown, and also a free 30-minute consultation where you're going to talk about this conversation, maybe get in depth with what you're doing, and perhaps help you improve your sales here on LinkedIn. Guys, thank you so much. And, we talked about recommendations. I don't have 140 like you, Dennis. I would love for people, if you've really enjoyed this conversation and all the other conversations, guys, this is only episode 26. You can rewatch all the other conversations on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/ I think it's Rupesh Live, or just go back to my LinkedIn profile and find these these past episodes. It's been amazing to have amazing people on like Dennis. Dennis, is there any last words that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about LinkedIn is, it's okay to make mistakes, just like any other platform. Don't be afraid. But but follow some of the framework that we talked about. Start with your profile, optimize that. Use search to find your target market. Start engaging. Just slow the conversation down. Don't be in a rush, right? Don't be in a rush to get to your pitch. Slow things down a little bit. Be willing to invest a little bit up front, and you can see huge returns on the back end.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for sharing these tips. I hope to talk to you and have you on again where we can go more in depth with our conversation. And I know there's at least 10 more hours or maybe a couple of days worth of exactly all the content, all the mistakes that people are still making, and how we can continue improving. I'm going to definitely have you on in the future. Dennis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rupesh. Appreciate it.
Guys, thanks. All right, guys, what do you think about this conversation? It was awesome. I wrote down so many tips. I am excited. And like I was saying earlier, if you've really enjoyed this conversation and these past episodes, please, I would love to connect. And like I said last week, I want to build my audience to about 100. I want to influence about 100,000 people and teach them and inspire them in our hospitality industry. So I would love to have maybe you recommend me to a few people within your network to have them connect with me and have them follow me, because I would love to continue building my profile here on LinkedIn and continue sharing. What I do is content, right? My content is education. I want to teach people the successes that I've learned and the people around me and how they've been successful to make you successful, right? That's my ultimate goal, is to really teach people and grow our industry and kind of grow ourselves as people. Because the last 5 or 7 years, I've really improved as a person, not just in my business, but as a person, the way I think and the things I do and the people I'm connected with. And then I also said, hey, there's sometimes you have to say no to things. And I've said a no to a lot of things that I feel like are not making me productive or making me inspired or doing things that I love to do. Guys, I'm asking you for 2 things. I'm asking you to hit a recommendation for me on LinkedIn. So you can go to my LinkedIn profile and it'll say give a recommendation. I would love to get a recommendation saying, hey, that either I inspired you or I taught you something, or we're just connected and you see the conversation and the information and the content I share. I would love a recommendation. And then I would love for you to recommend me so I can grow this audience and share more on LinkedIn. So 2 things I love to ask from you. And guys, this episode has been brought to you by PerfectLabor by Hotel Effectiveness. Please hit them up on the link right here, hoteleffectiveness.com. You can, if you use this link, you can actually save 30% on your setup fees. And guys, more than 42, probably 4,300 hotels use them nationwide to save on their labor cost and make every leader at their hotel a leader that knows how to optimize their payroll, because that's probably the biggest expense at our hotel. And we need to watch where we're spending our money, and using the PerfectLabor platform can help you. It's helped my hotels. Guys, thank you so much. I will see you next Wednesday right here on LinkedIn Live. Thanks so much for joining us. Hit the like button. And guys, thank you so much to all the wonderful people that are on. I wish I could name every single person that was on, because you guys inspire me. The more people that join this conversation keep me going. And this is a labor of love, like we talked about earlier. And guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. I will talk to you soon. Bye.